Hey everyone, Cheryl here. So this is a interview coaching session that I have with my regular pickleball student, Jack Crow, and we invite you to be a fly on the wall in this conversation regarding mindset to help him on his journey in pickleball. We hope you enjoy it.
Hey Cheryl.
Hey Jack. How you doing, friend?
Good.
How long have you been playing for now?
I think it's like day 192,
Okay.
hour 843. The interesting about that is you've been there for almost every second of that.
I
Since like
know.
literally the end of week 1 is when I met you.
Wow.
We've been working together
That's
the whole time.
good timing.
Yeah. Especially for me, yeah. I feel very fortunate to have met you, yeah.
Oh, well, I'm grateful to be part of the journey. So, being that you're a competitive pickleballer and you're trying to, obviously elevate your game, get better and better in competition, obviously start winning more matches.
Mm-hmm.
I also come from, I compete as well, and I've also come from competitive tennis,
Uh-huh.
but you also come from a competitive background as well.
Pool, yeah.
Through pool. I mean, you were high-level pool players, they call it. You were professional there, and so now trying to hone those skills to pickleball. Of course, there's some similarities you can take away from that in terms of the mental side of things.
Mm-hmm.
And then how to translate that into something completely different. What would you say when you were a professional pool player? What did you think about yourself as one?
Okay. So to clarify, I was like maybe an advanced amateur. I don't know.
Okay.
To put it in terms people might understand, maybe like 5'3", 5'4", 5'5".
Okay.
Duper
Okay.
pool player. So
Okay.
not quite pro.
But still high level.
Like brushing.
You're competing.
Yeah, starting to hit there. What translated? So as a pool player, and this is still much true of me as a pickleball player, I struggled with like competitive mindset. Like I'm very good at practicing. I'm very good at being diligent about doing my drills and my work and stuff. But then for some reason there's like a disconnect between practice and competition. Like why can I hit the shot perfectly in practice and not in competition? How do I stay focused? Like how do I sometimes like you're against someone who's better than you and you still need to find a way to win. Like all that kind of stuff.
For sure.
Which is something I struggle with a lot. Yeah.
Okay. So that's interesting because that's a lot of people's thing, right? A lot of people can relate to, wow, I'm so good when there's no pressure, essentially.
Right.
And then I'm folding when there is pressure. Sometimes with people, it's how you view yourself, right? What you think about yourself is what influences how you show up, whether you're competing or practicing even. I feel like it's easy in practice to think there's no pressure. There's no pressure at all, so we're able to be free with ourselves.
Right.
But then how do you translate that to a tournament situation?
Right.
When I was competing, especially in college, for example, when I was, in particular, I'll share a story about when I was getting into college and playing college tennis at high level. I wasn't sure. I mean, I knew I was good, but I don't know if I was good for the level I was about to enter in. So I didn't know if I could handle it. But something at that time, I was kind of actually studying a lot of mental stuff at the time, mental toughness and mental performance. And something clicked for me to tell myself, okay, I might not know where I'm going to get placed on the team when I join this team, but here's what I know I can control.
Right.
I can practice like the number one player on the team, right? And sometimes sometimes it's big for someone to say like, well, I'm the best player, so it's too big to think that way. So then you can control it by making it even smaller in a sense of, all right, maybe I'm not the best player. I don't believe it, but I can say, hey, I practice like a champion. I practice like I'm number one. I practice. I hold myself as this type of player. It doesn't mean I have to tell anybody yet. I just hold myself in that space. So I made the decision. I even wrote down in my journal. I was like, I practice like the number one player. I train like the number one player.
Right.
And so this was my freshman year of college. I came in. I kind of started at like, so we played singles and doubles. In doubles, I was already comfortable there, so I actually ended up playing one. But for singles, that was the one I was most nervous about. I kind of started at 5, actually, line 5. So there were 6 lines.
Okay.
So we started at 5 at the beginning of the season, and then by the end of the season, I was almost at 1. The only reason why I didn't become 1 is because we had a senior who was very good, and she was our number 1 player. But I pretty much slowly got pushed up to the number 2 spot by the end of the season. And why? Because again, I believed, I made a decision. I train like the number 1 player.
Right.
So I did the extra things. Like I did it not because I wanted to or necessarily. It's that I just felt like if I was this type of player, this is what I would do.
Gotcha.
Right. But then that's practice side of things. How do I then translate that to competition side of things? in the competition, so the beautiful thing coming from tennis, the beautiful thing about pickleball, which is also the hardest thing to do, is it's you are by yourself.
Right.
Even if you have a partner, you still have to make the shot. You cannot pass that ball to somebody else and they make the shot for you. You have to make the shot.
Yes.
So what mindsets I've learned over the years that apply to pickleball, just as it did in tennis, is what can we control one shot at a time? Breathing, my footwork.
Sure.
These are things that I can control. I can control what my opponent does, what my partner does, this and that, the other thing. So then my performance, I mean, we're talking about singles too. That's why my singles improved so much, and doubles it applied too. But even then, because you're playing singles in pickleball, you need to make that decision in your mind of what is something you can control. You can control where you're trying to hit to, right? So for example, if I wanted to, or rather if you hear people say like, oh, I'm trying not to miss the ball.
Yeah.
Well,
that's
you're already missing the ball because you're trying not to do it. So all your mind knows to do is what is it that you're trying to do? So in my case, like, right, number one, what do they do? They're consistent.
Yeah.
Okay, so I imagined I'm consistent. I'll make consistent choices. I'll hit consistent placements, high level percentages, right? And these are the little steps it will take for me to win the matches. I didn't win because all of a sudden it just overnight clicked. It was just the little decisions every match from point to point of whether I'm going to forget the last point, whether I won or lost, and can I focus on this one point and what am I trying to achieve in this one point or this one shot even.
Right.
So yes, it was very mentally exhausting to do it, but the more I did it, the more I saw the process is what made me get to my wins and what made me do better and better throughout the season.
Right.
And so as you start competing more, you have tournaments coming up, right? What can you control in those matches? Placement. You can control your placement. You can control your body. You can control your movement. You can control your breathing. Those are the things you can only focus on. Who cares what's going on outside of you? And so, yes, it's easier said than done.
Right.
But the more you do it, the more you'll find that you can just focus on what you can control, and you can't worry about anything else.
Yeah. So 2 questions I have about that story is, one, it sounds like well, you even said it, but it definitely wasn't an overnight thing. It was like you made a decision and then you worked on it every day for half a year or whatever.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing was, is this like that mindset that you trained yourself to, if I was number one, how would I practice?
Correct.
Is that like why when we take lessons, like that's the energy you're bringing? That's why we play those competitive little mini games?
100%.
Okay.
Yeah, if you ask me as your coach, hey, this is the standard I want, okay, you are there. We are already here. Yeah. So that's the thing. I'll talk to a lot of people. It's like, well, I'm working on it. I'm getting there. Well, you already have it. The question is, are you going to keep doing it?
Right.
So it's a very small adjustment mentally that makes the big difference. Because again, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not, still to this day, not perfect. I have my moments of doubt of myself. But it's in those moments, can we, again, forget about what just happened, forget about, we spiral a lot in the sport. This sport is very streaky, right? I mean, it's streaky for everybody. Momentum is huge. But can we somehow be in the moment, be here in this moment, nowhere else to be?
Right.
And can I just refocus on what is it that I'm trying to accomplish? So if you have that bigger picture in your mind of, again, I'm this type of player, now everything you do influences it. Now, maybe number one is too big to think about even, right?
Yeah.
Maybe it's a matter of, I'm just a very consistent player.
Right.
What is more often than not, people win matches because of consistency.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Trick question.
Yeah.
No, consistency. That's why they win. And then, I mean, right now there's this trending video of Roger Federer talking about how he only wins 54% of the match, of the points in a match in order to win the match.
Right.
54% is 4% more. That is all it takes. Mm-hmm. But it's, again, how do we get there? It's just focusing on one shot at a time, 1 point at a time. Forget about the last one. Yes, you can still get angry. I'm not here trying to say like, you got to be positive all the time. I still get upset, but then how quickly can I recover from that?
You got to let it go at some point.
You got to let it go.
Give yourself a few seconds to be mad or whatever, but then you got to move on.
Exactly.
You told me in practice the other day, like, don't let them mean anything. Don't let multiple points mean anything together or something like that.
Yes.
Which I really liked.
Yeah, I like saying that too, because for me, it's I have to work on it. I'm talking to myself too. Like, don't make this one day of practice mean anything. It was the worst day of practice. Who cares? It doesn't mean anything. You practice. That's what you did. That's the best thing you can do. And so I think that's part of the process of everyone trying to get better, is that journey of, who cares if it was bad? Who cares if it was good? You practice. That's better than what half the people can say for themselves. But that's the process. Again, like, there's no magic pill, but it's just how you're going to reframe your mind quickly. How can you recover quickly? How do you, I mean, even in the game itself, right? How can I recover quickly or not recover quickly, but like recover the shot so I have time to get ready for the next one, right? It's always a moment by moment situation. And so again, easier said than done, but that is the process. And the more you do it, it becomes almost, Zen-like or flow-like. And that's the goal, right? We want to be in the flow. We hear about this all the time. Be in the flow, be in the zone.
Right.
What does that even mean?
And how do you get there?
Yeah. But it's a choice. Right. It's always a choice. It's never because I was born with it or because of X, Y, and Z. I mean, I've had matches, and I can speak this more from tennis because I've had way more tennis match experiences than I have in pickleball currently. But in tennis, I mean, I've been sick. I've been injured. I've been cramping. And I still somehow won the match. Why? Because I didn't make it mean anything. I just somehow tried to push through, focus my breathing, one shot at a time. There's even times when I thought like maybe that person, they were sick, they were whatever, they're injured. And then how quickly the opposite has happened where I think, oh, it's done now because they're injured or it's done because they're tired. It's never done. So it's always, I actually assume in those situations, I've learned to assume they're going to come back somehow.
Right.
They're always going to figure out a way to come back. So I need to be one step ahead of them.
Right.
And that's, again, something I can control. Just me being one step ahead of them, the 54%, 4%, I mean to say.
Yeah.
4% more. Just one more step ahead of the person. Do you think that makes sense for you in terms of like how you can make that actionable for yourself?
Having heard you talk about the 54% thing, one thing that came to mind for me is like, sometimes I have matches. I'm thinking mostly about singles where, like, for whatever reason, I have like a 9-2 lead or like a 10-2 lead, and then I've had matches where I blew it. I blew a 10-2 lead.
Yep.
But somehow I think like two things I'm trying to learn from you is one is like it'd be nice to just get that 10-2 and then just win that point and close it out right there. But if not, like I realize I have like 7. Let's just say 7 because I don't want to go 10-10. I have 7 like good chances.
Okay.
Or I'm gonna have as many as 7 good chances to get the ball back and then do it.
Okay.
And then like of those, I only have to convert like if I can get the ball back and then lose it.
Sure.
But if I get that 4%, I still win the match, right? So.
And you're right about that. I think that is definitely one way to look at it. Another one, though, I think as you continue to compete more is you have to, again, forget everything that just happened. Forget about the future, too.
Right.
You don't know if that's going to be the case.
Yeah, okay.
It's this point now, just right here. Ball, yeah. That's it.
Got it.
So that's all you can control. And then, again, it's so easy to try to spiral like, crap, I just lost 5 in a row.
Yeah.
This point right here.
Yeah.
So I'll give you an example from tennis. I had in college, there was a tournament I played where I had lost the first set. So if you know how tennis scoring works, the first set was I lost 6-0. I was down 0-5 in the second set. Love 40, which means 0 match point.
Right.
This girl thought it was over.
Right.
I almost thought it was over. I almost did. But then I thought, you know what? Just one more. Just one not. Just try. One more point. Let's try it. Then another point turned into another point. Then another point to another point. Then another point turned into the game. Then another game turned into another game. Then the whole game's turned into a set. Now we're in the third set. Tiebreaker.
Your second set was 6-5. You.
I won. No, she was at 5. Yeah, so I think we either get 7-5 or we went to a tiebreaker. I actually can't remember that particular detail, but I did win the second set.
That's hardcore.
Then I won the match.
Wow.
Because so 2 things happened. I didn't stop. I just focused on the one point. She thought it was over. And she was even, at one point, we were both kind of, I remember, I think this was like in the second set or maybe even the last set. We looked at each other at one point and we both had this look like, she was like, what the heck? And I was like, sorry. Like, like we just had this understanding that she realized she thought it was over. And I just was like, yeah, you thought it was over. Yeah. And I didn't even know it was going to be, we were going to continue either. But I just, again, won this moment right here.
Those situations are interesting because when you turn the tables that much, now the pressure is way more on the other person.
Yes.
Because they had the big lead and now.
Yes. And it spiraled her. And I noticed that too. Like I noticed mentally, I could see her, in her mind, like, oh my gosh, I can't win anymore. I'm losing. And she started spiraling. And that's kind of why it just made it easy for me to win the match at that point. Because she literally had the big lead and she couldn't forgive herself for it. And I mean, I think I would have done that too. I mean, are you kidding me? 6-0, 5-0. 40 love, like that's horrible. Yeah. Sorry to say, but I mean, I think if I were in that situation, I would absolutely feel that way too.
Right.
But again, that's to your point of like, I have such a big lead. Now we're tied again. You can still win.
Right.
You can still turn it around. Why? Because it's just 1 point.
1 point.
One point right here.
Yeah.
And I've had those situations too happen to me where, crap, they came all the way back, and then all of a sudden just keep breathing, keep focusing on my footwork, keep focusing on my, I mean, those are two things I think about the most, is my footwork and my breathing. And then from there, it helps me to, again, stay in the moment and be fearless, if you will, and just not think about anything, focus on my goal. And then, but again, that's all conscious decision making. It's not anything special. It's just, can I reframe myself right away? And that's just practice. And that's just commitment to, you just never know what could happen. It's not over till you tap paddles.
Yeah.
And then my tennis coach actually told me this when I was younger, and it really, really stuck with me. It's not over till it's over. Sometimes I'll have that mantra in my head. It's not over till it's over.
Yeah.
And so, and I more often than not, I would win the match somehow, not knowing how. I just was there.
Yeah.
Just in the moment. There's nowhere else I have to be. I can't think about the future. I can't think about the past. So with all that being said, when your next tournaments come, I'd like to see if that would help you. You know, we'll talk about this again later, and see if that even helps at all.
Right.
Or if it even helps a little bit, right? Because that's the process. Sometimes it takes a second for it to, like, you recalibrate yourself going to that direction instead.
Right.
Of the self-sabotage, instead of the giving up too early, or instead of feeling bad for yourself. But you're just there. There's nothing, you know.
Yeah, I also think there's something to be said for persistence. Like, so my early tournament or match record specifically in singles was like awful. I think that I literally lost my first 23 singles matches in a row.
Okay.
And then I can't remember if it was you or another friend, but they said, why not try to like make it like a mark of honor or like a badge of honor, like try to lose 50. You know
I didn't say that one, but I like it. Okay.
And then at some point,
because there's no pressure.
Yeah, and then from pool, there's a famous player named Alex Pagulayan, and he's very small, but he's like a fierce competitor. He's Alex the Lion Pagulayan.
Okay.
Right? And one of the things one of his mentors told him was like, to become a champion, you have to lose 1,000 times.
Mm-hmm.
So he was like basically out on like a suicide mission to like lose to all the best players.
Okay.
And then at some point he started winning. Yeah. So.
Oh, you know, to that point, when I first started playing pickleball, finally heard about, here in Vegas, we have the Sunset Park, which is where all the good players come to play. And someone finally told me about the challenge court area where all the players go. So I made it a point to go there, deliberately get my butt kicked all the time. It was very frustrating, to a point where I felt like some people didn't want to play with me because we kept losing. But I just told myself, I got to keep going. That's the only way. So in a way, I faced my fear in that way. And I think it's, when people say face your fear, I do find it sometimes very daunting to think like, I don't want to though. I mean, it's a natural feeling. I don't want to face my fear. I don't want to have to do that. But I found a different way to frame the idea of facing my fear or losing, was the more I lose, the more I can learn quicker.
Okay.
So, I also, one of the first tournaments I ever signed up for, like 1 month to playing in or something, I joined a 4 or 5 tournament and lost every match and had no business being there. But, you know, I learned quickly. And so I tell people, it's scary to think that, but like, just lose quickly so that you can learn quickly.
Yeah.
I mean, but again, that was for me, it's a decision you have to make. And I think sometimes it's tough to get to that point where you make that decision. But again, you do it for like, to me, it was more important to learn than it was to lose, right? So that drive to learn was, for me, the reason why I allowed myself to lose.
I think that's really important. So just in my immediate group of friends who also compete, there are some people who just want to win at all costs now.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, fine. And
Sure.
honestly, I think there's pros to that mindset as well. But I think focusing only on winning means you are giving up opportunities to learn.
Correct.
Because I think we learn more from our losses, tough losses,
100%.
than definitely than our easy wins.
Yes.
Maybe not our hard wins. You probably learned something from that too.
I think the hard wins, I will admittedly say, I think it's a sigh of freaking relief when you're done with it. Like, oh my God, I can't believe I won that one.
You just let it go. I won, so
Yeah, I won. Great.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. You don't really analyze what happens until you lose a tough match.
I don't have nightmares about my winning matches.
Yeah. Exactly. So let's make this even more simple, right? If we were to break this down more, so it's very, very actionable. It could be as simple as talking it out with somebody. I mean, I think it's better to just journal it or like kind of think about it yourself.
Yeah.
You don't have to necessarily share this to people. But you got to think about, what does it look like and feel like if I was a certain kind of player?
Oh.
Right? And again, it doesn't have to be like if I was number one in the world. It doesn't have to be like that. It could be like, what would it look like and feel like if I was very consistent? If I imagine people saying, wow, or Jack, oh my gosh, you are putting the ball away so well It's so hard to get past you. Like, these are the things you hear, right? That's what it feels like. It's like hearing things like that, right? You can imagine this. You can imagine, like, and I'll be candid about my own experience. When I was trying to get better at pickleball, I also imagined people telling me, like, hitting me up on social media and being like, what have you been doing? You are freaking doing amazing right now. And that literally happened to me. Actually, somebody messaged me and said, I heard you've been doing amazing. What are you doing? I'm like, I'm just drilling a lot. And that's because I kept imagining, what does it feel like, look like, to be that player where people I'm having these kind of conversations.
Nice.
Right? So in anything you do in life, if you imagine, again, what this goes back to what I said about, what is the goal? What is it you're trying to achieve in a point? Where are you trying to hit the shot? And then in life, what kind of experience am I trying to have?
Right.
So, or what kind of conversations even? Again, you don't have to have this conversation with people. Don't advertise it, but again, our mind's strong. Our minds are powerful. And so if we keep thinking of the worst, we usually get the worst. If we think that the best thing always happens to us, we're going to figure it out somehow, some way. I mean, these are things, that's the type of player you are, right? If you're winning all your gold medal matches, what kind of player are you? You're known as someone who's just resilient. You're known as somebody who is, no fear. Like, these are the things it feels like, what it looks like. You don't have to think about making it happen. You just live from that place.
Yeah.
You just think, all right, like, if that's how it feels like, I'm just going to allow myself to feel that way. And think that way, and again, not necessarily something you have to force, even, because if you force it, then that's a problem too. But if you just kind of allow yourself, you make the decision, this is who I am, this is the experience I have, and guess what? Even to this day, I know, and also because I've had people affirm this to me, I know I'm very, very consistent, especially in like my resets. And I mean, that's something I get complimented a lot, and I'm proud of that because I did work towards that.
Yeah.
But again, I worked towards it more in my mind first before I put it to work on the court.
Yeah.
Because that's a lot of thing I deal with clients is, we want to work on it physically, of course, but if there's some mental block there, we're gonna have blocks where it's just not gonna quite be there consistently for you.
Right.
So for me, I will still miss. I'm not perfect, but guess what? I don't think of it like that. I know that I'm solid at it. So it seems a little arrogant, and I think that's why people get mad at someone like Anna Lee Waters, who's, they may say she's a little full of herself, but the thing is, you kind of have to be in a way. She knows herself. She knows what she decided, who she is as a person. And her losing a match, yes, she'll still get upset, but I'm pretty sure it doesn't affect her in the long term. It's just something that happened. It's not who she is.
Right.
And that's what happens with people, is like, they make it who they are. Oh, I'm the type of person that does this. Oh, I miss this a lot. Oh, I have a horrible backhand. Oh, this and that, the other thing. It's like, well, yeah, because you've made that decision. It's a decision.
Right.
And easier said than done. But again, the more you do it, just like any kind of practice, it becomes easier.
Yeah. So a question I had hearing this story is, I think one of the coolest pieces of advice I got from you, we can cut this out if this is the secret stuff for only
share all the
clients.
secrets, because any way to help people, I'm here for it.
So we talked, I think, kind of early on when we started working together, that like I am struggling with like this competitive thing, and you gave me this really cool idea about like creating like a competitive alter ego and like even naming it.
Yep.
So hearing this story, I'm curious, like, to what extent is you imagining like what it feels like to be number one, or what people say to you, or what comments they make? Like, is that part of the alter ego?
Absolutely.
Or is that something
No, I would say, why not? I don't think it would hurt it, rather. It would not hurt it to think of that as part of your alter ego. If it, again, maybe it is easier for you to, I told you this, it's probably easier for most people to think of it as something outside of themselves.
Yeah.
So if it has to be your alter ego who does this stuff, great.
Yeah.
If that works for you, perfect. I think there's nothing wrong with that. You should absolutely use what you can.
I think we might need to explain what the alter ego is, because we know what we're talking about.
Okay. So, I mean, a really good example, I think a lot of people know about this, is like, for example, Beyonce has Sasha Fierce, right? She, as a performer, when she brings out Sasha Fierce, she's a different performer. And I think, I haven't never seen her perform, but a lot of people attest to, when they see Sasha Fierce, it's such a vibe. It's such you feel something about it.
There's a switch.
There's a switch.
Like
Yes.
Like there's a before and after.
Exactly.
Yeah.
In other words, you can look at it as like beast mode or in the zone. I mean, however you want to look at it. But again, these are all, there's not really one way to do it right. Because I think that's the other thing is, as a human, we're like, just tell me what to do and I'll do it. But it's like, that's part of the self-discovery. Like, you might have to find that, whether it's an alter ego, whether it's a mindset, whether it's a embodiment of something, that's the fun part of it. You're learning about yourself. And I think we should do that. We should take the time to do that. So, the alter ego situation, like, like, so, okay, I'll share mine just because why not? For me, it's Bonster, like Monster Bon, because that's my last name. So Bonster, like I get the Bonster out when it's competition. So I've had people, like clients, they go see me compete and they're like, who are you? Like, what happened? Like, you're a different person. And it's like, yeah, because Bonster came out. I mean, I don't tell people this. It's just for me a way to embody some kind of competitive energy, because I'm really not. I love being cooperative. So I like doubles more actually, because I love working with a team. I'm not so much contrary to popular belief, I'm really not as competitive as I think other people are.
Right.
But I need that alter ego, if you will, to help me perform at a high level. And so things that I would normally do in regular life, I would probably do it under that alter ego, and I won't feel so bad about it, because again, it's me embodying this being, if you will, or character, persona, however you want to call it, whatever feels comfortable for you, so that I can perform at my highest. Because I'm putting all this time, effort, money into trying to win matches and win tournaments. Why would I not do that, right? Because otherwise I'm just wasting my time.
Yeah.
And I don't think not many people take that time. Pickleball is fun, don't get me wrong, but like, I think if you're competing, you're competing for a reason. You want to win. So why not give yourself that little extra time to focus on what does that mean for you as a competitor? Because you can say all day, oh, I just want to have fun. But you played a tournament. There's a reason why you did. Yeah. You want to do well. So I think we have to also evaluate that too, being a competitive athlete in any capacity.
Yeah. Another question I had, hearing your story about, like, you say you get compliments about your resets, for example. I do as well, and people say, like, oh, you have great defense, and now I'm known as a defensive player. But now this I won't say upsets me, but I'm curious if you have any advice about changing your image, because I want to also be known as a player with, like, psychotic evil putaways, like,
okay,
so more like of a balanced player. Or I would love to see someone say you have great defense, but also just scary offense. And I kind of think that about you, because you're always like, I feel disrespected a lot on the court, but like in a good way.
Sure.
Yeah,
no, I mean, it's just the process again. It's the same process. The same process it's going to take as you got to where you are now with your defense is the same process. And I think, again, that's easier to embody because you do practice that a lot. Yeah. So that there's a part of that too. Like, that's where the physical is important, because you've got the body experience for it. You've got the body tolerance for it. That's why it did, like, you're known for your defense, which is amazing. But I think because you also realize, well, I put in the hours in, so you can justify it. But now it's something else that you feel like, I don't know if I can justify. So, but why not just think the same thing? Like, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if I have like the best putaways. It just is what it is. Right. So maybe to change it up a bit for you, maybe we make it more specific in terms of actually, let's think about this, and this will probably be our last bit. And if we're wrong, we can adjust, right? So for you, we're having a little bit of a hiccup on the putaways. Mm-hmm. But I think already what you said having a, what would you call it exactly?
The words, so maybe I'm even doing it. Like,
yeah, you're doing it right now.
I would like people to say, like, dude, your putaways are just evil. Like,
evil, okay, I like that. So then that would be part of it. You imagining, taking 5 minutes, 10 minutes a day to imagine, it is as simple as, like, closing your eyes and hearing someone, and a lot of people say, holy cow, evil putaways, man, that defense, but like that offense. Yeah. And no, seriously, like that, these are the things you want to hear, again, being this person who is this type of player. So that's one way to handle it, just kind of being comfortable hearing that, feeling it. That's one way to attack it. Another one is just a decision you make. Like, I just I just know how to do it really well. Yeah. And again, every time you do it right, of course I did it right, because I do it right all the time. If you miss, doesn't matter. I'll do it again the next time. Yeah. So those could be like the in-game situations or in-practice situations that you can tell yourself, and that's also part of it too. Maybe you got to work a little harder on this particular belief, because I do feel like there is a hiccup there. We all have hiccups. I have hiccups as well. But in this particular belief, it might take a little extra work to reframe it every time it happens. Like, if you miss, no worries. I know exactly what to do. Yeah. Right. Or again, if it's a matter of just continuing to visualize, I think the main thing is just embody. What does that mean, right? What is this something we can do easy that we don't think about? We we breathe, right? We don't think about it. We don't make a comment on our breathing. We breathe. It's simple. That's how it should be treated. Anything that you want to accomplish, you have to get to a point somehow in your mind. And again, there's different ways to explore it. Maybe it's simple. Maybe you even ask yourself, like, what would it look like? What would it take? Why do I do it so well? And then you don't have to answer that question. Maybe it'll come to you, right? And you'll start feeling comfortable. And all of a sudden, before you know it, you don't even think about it because it's just what it is.
Yeah.
So like when people tell me like, you're such a good coach, I'm flattered, I'm grateful, but it's just what it is. But why? Because I've already embodied it, right? And so anything that we have in our life that is easy for us to embody, because we don't think about it, is what needs to happen in something that we make such a big deal out of. Just like we said earlier, don't make a big deal. It's not a big deal. I just do it. It just happens.
Yeah. And I think you also mentioned in practice the other day that like, if we need to improve some part of my game, for me it is my offense. I think you even said like, I'd like to see you be more aggressive, even if it means you miss some.
Yeah.
Like there's such thing as a good miss. Overdo it. Like if you're working on something, like go ahead and hit a speed up that's too low and you hit into the net or you hit out. Just to like hit it once in a while.
Right.
At the very least, you show the other person that you will hit that shot.
Yes.
Maybe you don't hit it good all the time, but it's there.
Yeah, I mean, that's, again, another way to tackle it. This is where I think we have to go back to trusting our intuition, if you will, trusting what makes sense to us. Like I always tell people as a coach, like take what works, leave what doesn't. And that's okay. I have it's good to just trust yourself. Ultimately, you have to be your own coach. But yes, that's another thing too. Maybe it's just you overdo it so that maybe your fear is of missing it. So if you overdo it and you've missed it so many times, there's no way I can keep doing this. There's no way. That's one way you can look at it, right? Eventually, you're going to have to make the shot. But there's a fine line because I know some clients who are like, I never make the shot. And that's so, but I don't think that's going to be the case for you necessarily, but if it is, it's something we can, again, reframe. We just have to reframe the mindset around this particular shot. So, again, what are the things you can control? Placement, contact point, footwork. If we're talking about physical things you can do, but the mental side of things, you miss it. Oh, I've made it hundreds of times.
Yeah.
Right? Like whatever you got to do to tell yourself, it's fine, no big deal. Whatever. Here you go.
And I think that you could also like overdo it for a while. And then like just dial it down a little. Yeah. Or like sometimes when you're working on a shot, like you're trying to hit to the corner or whatever, hit one out of bounds on purpose and then hit one down the middle on purpose. And then that solution is somewhere between that, right? Yeah,
for sure. Yeah.
Sometimes the student
becomes the teacher, becomes a master. Exactly. And that's honestly what I want. I want more people to self-regulate themselves so that we become better players, better versions of ourselves, so that I can have good competition.
I'm trying to get there. I'm trying to get, one of these days it'll be more fun for you to do.
No, I'm having fun already. I mean, and you're very coachable, so that's why it's fun. And you ask really good questions, and it helps me to make sure I'm keeping myself in check as well. So I appreciate you, Jack.
I appreciate you, Cheryl.
Oh.
Boom. Game over?
Game over.
Okay. Shout out to Pickleball Paradise, Dina Crump, for opening up her beautiful backyard for this interview. Stay tuned for more videos to come. Jack Crow is the videographer for this video. Check out the description box below for links to various sources and ways to find me. Thank you for watching.